You may be excited about the idea of starting a new business, but you might not have a clear sense of the kind of business that you would like to start. A very common question among aspiring entrepreneurs is, how do I come up with great business ideas? In fact, this Community Q&A episode was inspired by Sonu, who asked, can you please recommend some books for getting startup ideas? So I've got a pretty powerful exercise that I'd like to share with you when it comes to how to generate great business ideas. But first, I want to talk about friction. And this is a concept that was discussed in the book titled Friction by Roger Dooley. The idea here is you want to start to see the world through the lens of friction. And by friction, I mean anything that needlessly complicates the lives of people when they're trying to buy things or achieve something or engage with a business in some way. Anything that makes things needlessly complicated or expensive or time-consuming or otherwise frustrating, you want to identify these things and you want to start to see the world through this lens, because often these kinds of situations that involve a lot of friction, are natural opportunities for potential businesses. I'll give you a few quick examples. The taxi cab industry, before Uber came along, was layered in friction. If you wanted a cab, you had to call a cab, you had to wait for it to arrive. When it did arrive, you had to hope it was your cab, maybe it was somebody else's cab. You had to sort that out and figure that out. If it was your cab, you had to hop in, explain your destination, hope that they know how to get there. And finally, when you did arrive at your destination, you had to figure out how you could pay them. Do they accept credit card? Do they accept debit? Do they only accept cash? What methods of payment do they take, and what methods do you have available to you? And of course, the inverse is also true. For the driver, they spend their time waiting for the next fare or lining up the next fare, maybe sitting in a queue at an airport or driving to their next fare. They have to hope that they know how to get to the destination, and they too have to deal with the complication around payments and accepting the kind of money that hopefully their customer has handy. So this is an experience that was just littered with friction, and yet very important to note, people have put up with this for decades. So even though there's been friction involved in taking taxis have been a thing for a very, very long time. And that's important to note because there are many situations in life that involve all kinds of friction that we just put up with, and we don't even really recognize until something like Uber comes along and makes the situation dramatically better. And then when that happens, the idea of going back to the old system becomes, not really tenable, where we now have seen the light, we have this much better solution, and we would never go back to the previous one given the choice. So that's an example of the kind of friction that you want to be looking for. Another quick example would, of course, be movie or DVD rentals and what that has looked like previously compared to something like Netflix today. So back in the day, if you wanted to rent a movie, this involved driving to Blockbuster or another movie rental store. You had to hope they had the right movie in stock that you wanted to get. Not only that they had it, but that somebody else hasn't already rented it so that it's actually available for you to rent. And then, of course, afterwards, after you enjoyed the movie, you have to bring it back to the store. And if you don't do so in time, you have late fees and all sorts of other frustrations along the way. So a ton of friction here. Again, people just put up with this. They dealt with it. But Netflix comes along, they solve it with mail order DVDs and then eventually with streaming video. But this is another example of a business born of trying to reduce or eliminate friction in everyday life. One last example would be the whole razor blade situation before something like Dollar Shave Club came along. It used to be, if you needed new razor blades, number one, you have to know that you need new blades because they don't automatically arrive. You have to check your stock. Maybe you go to change your blade and find out you don't actually have one in the drawer that you thought you did. And so you need to be aware of the need. You need to drive to the store. When you get to the store, because razor blades are relatively small and expensive, they're open to a lot of theft. So they are often locked behind a cabinet or something that you need somebody to actually come out and provide to you. You can't just pick it up off the shelf because, again, expensive, easy to steal. And so there's more friction there. It's not just as easy as grabbing something off a shelf. And then finally, they're relatively expensive because you're buying them from a store and that store is marking up the value. So Dollar Shave Club comes along. They solve all of these problems. With a subscription, razor blades are automatically delivered to you on a regular schedule, so you don't have to worry about keeping keeping track of your inventory. They're not sold through a store, so they're less expensive because they're cutting out the middleman. And then you're not dealing with the friction of having to drive to the store and, of course, have somebody unlock the cabinet or whatever might be involved in getting the actual product in your hands so that you can go to the cashier and pay for it. So this is the kind of friction. Those are 3 quick examples, but this is the kind of friction that as an aspiring entrepreneur, you want to see the world through this lens where you're constantly aware of how things could be better or how things are needlessly complicated, because in many cases, this can form the basis of a new business. Now, of course, it's important to note that not every minor frustration or friction in the world can be the basis for a great company. There are all kinds of things that for any number of reasons are not enough of an annoyance or that customers aren't willing to pay to have resolved for them. So it's not as if every single point of friction in the world is going to be a great business opportunity, but seeing the world through this lens will open your eyes to all kinds of interesting possibilities. And then naturally, once you have some interesting options, you will need to validate those ideas, ensure that people are interested enough to pay for them, and make sure that the business is actually viable in that you can collect enough money to make the entire effort worth it. But it all starts with coming up with great ideas. Now, a great exercise from author James Altucher is to simply make a daily habit of sitting down for a few minutes each and every day and writing out 3 to 5 promising business ideas. So, always new, unique ideas. Write just a paragraph or 2 to explain how you could potentially pursue a business idea. The goal here isn't, well, clearly it's not to pursue every single idea, but it is to make sure that you're at least thinking about ideas on a regular basis. Because what is likely to happen when you pursue a daily habit like this is the first day or 2, you're going to have a few ideas that you write out. And then after a while, you're going to be running out of ideas, and it's going to force you to really focus much more aggressively and much more intentionally around seeing the world through this lens, not just in physical stores, but online. When dealing with businesses of all kinds, you're going to be constantly looking for what's working, what's not working. And in many cases, what's really interesting is you're going to see an opportunity in one industry, or maybe something that's working well in one industry, and you're going to see another industry that could benefit from that same model. So by simply executing on this daily habit of writing out ideas, you're going to start to focus on friction, and you're going to start to see patterns between certain ideas and then other unrelated opportunities that could potentially benefit from the same logic behind your original ideas. So the goal is quality through quantity. So again, you're not going to pursue every single idea that you write down, but by forcing yourself to write down 3 to 5 ideas every single day, you're going to come up with far more ideas. You're going to start to see the pattern between the ideas, and necessarily every once in a while, you're going to have 1 or 2 that are really worth pursuing or worth testing. So that is what I recommend if you're looking for interesting startup ideas. Read a book like Friction by Roger Dooley. Start to see the world through the lens of friction. Identify things that are causing frustration for people out there in the marketplace, and then exercise this habit of every day trying to force yourself to come up with 3 to 5 interesting ideas, because that will naturally lead you to focus more on the kinds of things that you might be interested in pursuing. So that's what I recommend if you're looking for great business ideas. Now, if you could ask me any one question to do with business strategy, digital marketing, or entrepreneurship in general, what would your single most important question be? I invite you to post a comment down below this video where you let me know a little bit about your business, who your target audience is, and what your single most important question is. And I'll do my best to keep up with the questions in the comment section. And when a question has broader appeal, where I feel that other people would be interested in the response as well, I may create a follow-up video where I go into more detail on that question. So be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so that you get an alert when I publish future videos, in case I end up answering your question in video, in addition to responding in the comment section. So think of your most important question, post it down in the comment section below, and I look forward to hearing from you.